Yeah.
Hello and welcome to episode 28 of Hybrid Fitness Report. My name is Paul Reynolds.
My name's Jude Reynolds.
And we're in the car. I've just picked Jude up from the airport. He's got Hyrox Miami in less than 2 weeks now. So he's coming out to stay with us for a little bit just to recover from English spring.
And acclimatise. Yes.
Yes. So acclimatise just long enough to then have to go back to England. But hopefully England will be more tolerable by the time you get back. So the bulk of today's episode, or this week's episode, is the interview that we've done with a couple of the main guys from By Athena. And we'll be showing that to you shortly. But before then, we just wanted to have a bit of a catch-up about training, which we didn't do last week. Well, we trained, but, we didn't catch you up. But also with some of the shenanigans, I think is the word, was a word, for what happened at the EMEA Championships over the weekend.
Hit Viersma
with a cheeky little world record, 52.34.
I think 47.
52.47.
And then
beating the previous world record by a tiny little half a minute.
Yeah.
Although he wouldn't have won it. He'd have been in second. He would also beaten the world record, but he would have been in second to Tim Vienisch, except Tim Vienisch staggered his feet by too many millimeters one time and had a 30-second penalty. So
that was, to be fair, some of them, like I've seen, like when Charlie and Ollie got pulled up on it in the Elite 15 doubles a while ago, no one knew what was going on. With Tim Vienisch's penalty, as soon as he staggered his feet, I was watching the live stream and I was like, how is he not getting? And then the card pulled out a judge. So in all fairness, with that one,
pulled out a judge.
Did I say what I said? Judge pulled out.
I want to see a picture. Someone has to draw me a picture of a card pulling out a judge. But yes,
judge pulled out a
I
card.
know what you mean.
So that one was actually, detectable to the naked eye, which is helpful. Because I did actually see him. I mean, it does not save you 30 seconds putting your feet an inch apart and jumping off of there, but.
And even when you take into account that the penalties aren't supposed to replicate the game, they're supposed to be a deterrent against doing it. But even so, that's slightly draconian. Not even perhaps as draconian as what happened to a couple of the women, but we'll come on to that. The context of that, of the men's world record being beaten by 30 seconds, is that in the 3 years prior to that, the men's record had improved by 7 seconds. And then in one day, one guy goes 30 seconds under and one guy would have gone 40, 50 seconds under. So,
and then Sean Noble was, I think, 1 second off or something ridiculously close.
And then the next day, Tim Vienisch and Alex Ronkovic, who wasn't tapering for this, but just got invited by Tim Vienisch at the last moment, raced with him in the pro doubles, and they set a world record.
Yeah, by a comfortable margin again.
Right.
Yeah.
The women's singles was like the doubles, was almost more notable for the penalties. So you had Ellie Sternforce finished her wall balls. She'd just overtaken Emily Darman and was about to get her qualification. Finished her wall balls and ran right in front of Emily and clipped Emily on the way through. So Emily falls backwards. And where everyone's looking at going, that can't be allowed to stand. Sure enough, that was almost immediately she was given a penalty ball. Relatively to what happened next day.
She was basically 10 meters from qualifying for the Elite 15 World Championships.
Yeah.
I mean, that was race brain because all the athletes are briefed and they all know that is not acceptable at all.
And that's in the basic rules. But then Sternforce, ironically, became the beneficiary of a penalty the following day when Charlie Searle and Lauren Stockley looked like they punched their ticket for the Worlds and had a nice big fat check for finishing second overall in the doubles. But it turned out when they'd finished their sled pull, they cut the corner by about 1.5 meters. So there were a lot of women leaving the sled pull at the same time. And to try and get in the flow of the people leaving the sled pull, rather than literally stand still for probably only a second, but rather than stand still, they cut in front. But that cutting the corner, which wasn't appealed at the time, and everyone went home and they're like, great, we've done this, we've got our money, we've qualified, everything's great. 3 hours later, Lauren Stockley goes onto Instagram and finds out that they've been penalised and bumped down the rankings. But she didn't find out from Hyrox. That's how she found out. And she commented as such on the Hyrox post, saying it's one thing being penalised, it's another thing to find out on Instagram. And that happened 3 hours later. And there were quite a lot of big Hyrox names chipping into that conversation, pointing out that there seems to be a big inconsistency in how things are applied. So, for example, Cole Learn won the men's North American Championship a few weeks ago, and he chucked water over himself during the race, and that's not allowed. And according to one of the comments online, I'd like to get this confirmed, there was an appeal. I thought there wasn't, but there was an appeal against his result, and Hyrox went to Kohler and gave him a warning not to do it again. Whereas Lawrence Stockley and Charlie Searle cut 2 feet off a corner, and they get bumped down a minute. And you're going, okay, where is the consistency on that? Either we're going to get super strict on everybody, which I think is the best solution, because I think over time people get used to what needs to happen, or you get oddly flexible in ways that is never going to be fair. What then happened is Hybrid Fitness Media, who've been doing a lot of good work on following up on this, they contacted Hyrox the day after, not for 15 seconds after, but the day after, asked them for comment, and Hyrox said, no comment. Like, how can you do that? How can you have no comment on something where there's such obvious and massive discrepancy and inconsistency? I don't get it. And that's to say nothing of folks who are still relying on times for qualifying, not just positions, pointing out that there were a lot of records being set, and some of the records were being set by a long way. And what are we thinking about that?
Yeah, I mean, it was obvious that it was not even just a quick course. It seemed like a course that wasn't strictly fair to those that weren't there because of how much quicker it was. Now, can we be sure that it was not the full distance? No. I want to give Hyrox the benefit of the doubt and say it was the full distance of everything, but
What's the alternative to it not being the full distance? How can you have records tumbling by that much? Because one of the commentators during one of the races was saying, well, a lot of people are saying this is a really quick course, but, these things are happening because of the atmosphere. So, well, all these events have atmosphere. All the big events have a massive atmosphere. They all bring out the best in people. This was not a uniquely pressure-filled event. There weren't more spectators. There weren't more stakes on this.
I just think they're not allowed to say something like that. That must be the only reason, because it was clearly a course that wasn't replicative of the American courses, for example, where you saw in the regionals there, where you had Kohler and Dylan Scott, Rich Ryan. Obviously, Rich Ryan didn't have his day, needed the Dylan Scott. But those courses in America are clearly not the same as the ones that we have here. That's been a thing for a while, in that the European sleds are easier, minus the Spanish ones. And it said it on the times. I think the sled times are around 20 seconds quicker per push and per pull, in London than they were almost anywhere else. And these were all also when comparing to the world records. And it might not just be that, the runs as well, I don't know. Obviously, I didn't go there and measure it. I don't know if it's short. But my theory is something was up with the sleds and possibly something else as well.
So the first on the men's singles, the first run, a lot of them came in around 3:16.
Yeah.
On the first run. Is that plausible in itself?
Yes. Given that it was Sean Noble and it was the adrenaline-fueled first run, yeah. But I saw him go in the in-arch at 3:06, which is not plausible. Could he run a 3:06 kilometer? Yes, easily. But would he have ever done that in the first kilometer of a Hyrox with a bunch of people, with last place only being about 10 seconds behind him? No. Now, first run might not have been a strict kilometer, but my theory is the sleds were unusually fast for some reason or another, and the runs were, I don't know. But yeah, I'm not afraid to say it with this one, because the sort of stats speak for themselves. The records speak for themselves. Hide Versmo does not come back from not racing. Granted, he's been training very hard and absolutely demolish a world record with ease, with obviously 7 seconds coming off in 3 years. All of a sudden, oh look, there's like 45 seconds off of the record. That doesn't happen. And then that was basically two people in one race absolutely smashing the record. This was the same Tim Veinish, by the way, that raced a few weeks ago and didn't do that time. And 45 seconds in the Hyrox at the top level is a lot.
So are we setting ourselves up now for like several years without breaking the world record?
Just the world record is the amount of British records, age group records, every record. The amount of things I've seen online from people who did not do that last race and now all of a sudden have. Now, obviously, you have to be a certain caliber of athlete to break those records, regardless if it was a slightly quick course or not. So the athletes who still did it are still phenomenal athletes. It's just that if it were on the same course as all the other ones, would it have happened? I don't know. But
you do know.
I do know it wouldn't happen. But the qualification, that's why a lot of people are happy that it's going to points, so that this won't matter for elite qualification in the future. Because if you get 51 minutes and come in third, you get less points than if you get 54 minutes in another race and come in first. So that's the benefit of the point system. It's not irrelevant. It's just when you're strictly talking about the Elite 15, they don't care about times. It's mainly the records. It's like, can you imagine being sat at home, being one of the people from America or the APAC region where you've had tough courses or normal courses all year, and all of a sudden you have people coming along that haven't raced in months smashing the record. You're like, doesn't make much sense, does it? But
well, the organisers are German, so I don't think we can accuse them of British bias. There must be something else going on there.
Yeah, it wasn't the Germans that did it.
No, definitely not. Okay, so that was the. I kind of lost track of the fact that we're recording a pod at the moment because I'm sitting here in a traffic jam, venting, looking at the Arantis mobile detailing van.
You won't be able to get the record now if he races in
Miami. Who? Arantis mobile detailing? You. Me. What record was I going to get in Miami?
The 50 plus open solo.
Why was I going to get that record?
I don't know. You were going on about getting the record the other day, and now you can because it's been broken in the MEA.
No, I don't think I was going on about
it. It was.
I think maybe I was saying that the only thing keeping me from the world record was talent, application, strength, fitness, ability, and weight.
And
I might have said that. I might have said that those are the only things keeping me from a world record. Yeah. They're actually the same things, coincidentally, keeping me from qualifying for the Worlds.
And me from setting a world record, actually. So,
what? Talent, fitness, speed.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Well, if you could, I did the best I could with your talent, but I had limited genetic tools available to me on that one.
Poor granddad.
Yeah, well, he did a good shot. I mean, you've got some decent athletes in your background. It's just none of them are me. Yeah, sorry about that.
It's awkward.
So, what else are we going to talk about before we hand over to ourselves? Training, that's it.
Your plan with Miami.
Right, so, before we get home, I need to make a decision about Miami.
Yeah, we're with traffic, about 8 minutes from home.
Do you want to show folks what traffic looks like? Do you want to let them see Arantis mobile detailing?
Well, no free promo, but...
Well, they're getting it. They might be rubbish, or they might be great.
It's not fun. It's not good on a small island.
Okay, so, I have started being less rubbish 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So
Didn't you say you were doing nothing 2 weeks ago?
That hence 2 weeks is my window of when that's since then that I've been less rubbish.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So you haven't seen me for a lot longer than that. But I was quite a bit heavier 2-3 weeks ago. I've been intermittent fasting since then, which at my age is the only way to lose weight for me. So I can't lose weight just by eating.
It's not, but it's just a way that helps.
It is. For me.
I'm not letting people believe that for you that is the only single way you can lose weight.
Well, I could literally stop eating completely.
Eat 3 meals a day and eat less for each meal and walk more.
I did that. Nothing happened.
Fair, that's not how it works.
It is how it works.
Anyway, don't listen to him. He's intermittent fasting, which is an option. We'll put it like that.
I lost a little bit of weight by eating less and exercising more. I lost a lot more weight by eating less and exercising more through the method of intermittent fasting because I ketoized myself.
It's you.
Or ketamined myself, one of the two.
Hopefully. But what we talked about.
It definitely wasn't ketamine myself. No, that would be illegal. No, I ketoized. It's not the keto diet. It's what's the thing that happens when you don't eat?
Ketosis.
There we go. I ketosisized myself. So I don't eat for 16 consecutive hours, which makes me very miserable before I eat again. But I get very excited about the fact that fat is dissolving into the air in those last few hours.
That's what happens.
Ketosis. It is what happens. It is what happens with me. So anyway, that works. That's been working really well. And it means I can't work out very much, but I've started working out again. So yesterday I ran 5 miles.
Oh.
Exactly. Well, yeah, quite. Don't sound quite.
Well, you haven't said anything. I assume you would.
No. Well, I ran a few miles earlier in the week and that didn't kill me. And then I ran 5 miles yesterday and that didn't kill me either. That was quite encouraging. But at the same time, while this is going on, I had an ankle MRI. And what did that ankle MRI say about me?
Yeah, he's screwed. Your ankle's really messed up.
So the surgeon's office got back to say, we got the results of your MRI, and the head nurse of the orthopedic surgeon's office said, I'm not a specialist in ankles, but you've got a lot going on, and we need to see you. So that's great. So basically, I've got bits sticking out of the bone where there shouldn't be. I've got bits that have leaked out the bone from where I broke it very badly 20 years ago that I didn't know about. And I've got, I think, 6 partially torn ligaments on the outside of my
There's a lot of ligament damage.
I didn't realise there were that many ligaments on the outside of an ankle, but 6 of them. So that's upsetting. So I don't know if that stupid thing's going to give out on me. I'm supposed to have PRP in both knees. My ankle apparently has a lot going on with it. And meantime, I'm losing weight and starting working out. So we're nearly home. Am I doing Miami or not? Bearing in mind, I'm supposed to be doing Hyrox Malaga 2 weeks later.
Yeah. This will be a quality session.
Quality in what sense?
As in, Hyrox specific threshold beneficial.
Do they give you a patch if you do it without? If you walk around without the weights?
No, it hurt when you ran at all.
No, didn't. No.
Have you tried doing anything else than Hyrox? Okay,
nope.
Well, you might want to try that first.
Well, yes, but that's what I'm saying. I've got less than 2 weeks. I've also got less than 2 minutes before we get home. Less than 2 weeks.
You do marathons, and the Disney half, for example. You're okay with taking not 5 hours. That's marathon. 3 hours if that's what it took, right?
It took me less than 2.5.
Yeah, but I'm saying if you knew it was going to take you around 3, you'd probably still have done it anyway.
Yes.
So I'm like, if the Hyrox is going to take you around 2 hours, you're going to do it anyway. Environment's cooler, race is way more fun.
Yes.
We'll be there.
Am I going to... Don't be there. Please don't be there. Like it is, I'll just burn enough calories for a good Cheesecake Factory blowout.
Oh, yeah.
Which is the main reason I want to do it. So I can justify my body weight.
Favourite restaurant in the world, by the way.
In appetizers and cheesecake afterwards. Okay. All right. So is that a decision then?
I think so.
Okay, I'm doing Miami. Dang it. I was hoping the answer would be no. Okay, so enough about my lack of training. What have you been actually doing?
Well, I raced on, what was it, a week ago today, is it? No.
Today's Monday, so
about 9 days ago.
Yeah.
Since then I've done 2 double threshold days, which is always running in the morning and then ergs in the evening. And then the rest of it has been a lot of easy aerobic work on the bike specifically, some skiing as well as always. But I started incorporating strength work again, because a week leading up to Glasgow, I didn't do any strength work. The week of Glasgow, I didn't do any strength work, and then I did my first sort of strength session back 6 days ago. So that was good to be back, but it's also weird, coming from a semi-strength background, being like my training in the gym was all bodybuilding style for 3-4 years. I got up to a 185 squat, 125 bench, 220 deadlift, and then, all of a sudden that was put to a minimum with this Hyrox stuff. So it's cool to be able to get back to that a little bit. And then, leading up to Miami now, it's just going to be trying to find a treadmill on this island that is accurate, which is actually weirdly hard to do my threshold sessions, because doing them in 80 degrees is not a threshold session. It's just bad heat training. Not 80 degrees, 90 degrees at times. Anyway, but yeah, this is going to look the same this week. There's going to be some GPPs, general physical preparedness, like Hyrox specific WODs, or just workouts that have Hyrox specific movements in them.
General physical preparedness sounds like going for a walk.
No, that'll be you have a 200 meter row. That's a bit short. 500 meter row, 30 snatches, 500 meter run, 30 reverse lunges. It's it can be Hyrox specific, or it can be just general, hence general, just to get you fitter and stronger. I'll just add in one Hyrox specific threshold session. It'll be just running, or it'll be just ergs. I'll rarely incorporate running and burpees and rowing, for example, in a threshold session, because for me, the more you isolate something, the better you can get at it quicker. And so for me, running is my weakness, and so whenever I train my threshold sessions or my running, I try and train that in its entirety just with running, to avoid any other sort of things that could take away from my paces, which is why Hyrox specific work for me only happens maybe once a week, once every 9 or 10 days, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's been your session, and you're not gonna taper for Miami, are you?
No.
Okay, so that's been the overview of what's been going on generally. Next then is our interview with By Athena, a new race, or relatively new race to the UK. So I hope you enjoy that conversation. Thanks very much for listening. I've been Paul Reynolds.
I've been Jude Reynolds.
Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Hybrid Fitness Report is sponsored by Wadleat, a UK-based sports apparel company. Wadleat's designs come from a love of functional fitness, helping you to build strength, mobility, stability, and endurance while staying comfortable in what you wear. So from performance base layers to changing robes, from gym shorts to hoodies, and training socks to track jackets, Wadleat have got you covered. Head to wadleat.co.uk, that's WODLETE.co.uk, with free delivery on all UK orders over £50 and worldwide shipping available.
Can you hear me now?
We've pretty. And thanks again for joining us, Paul. And it's been great having you on. And we'll have to get you on another time as well. So thanks and good night, folks.
Sorry,
Oh, hello, Kevin.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. You can.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I don't think my mic was working when I switched over.
Well, Jude, we did another interview recording this morning, and me and the guest were having a right old good chat, and Jude was being boring and silent, and then like 5 minutes in, he's like, "Oh, finally, my audio's working." I tried to chip in, you guys kept ignoring me. It's like, "No, we heard you, we just weren't interested."
That's the secret skill of a good podcaster, isn't it? Just being able to, continue regardless.
Yeah.
Exactly. Jude always goes for the deeply dark and mysterious look on these pods. He's almost completely in shadow.
I don't like good lighting.
He doesn't like good lighting. What? Because you're not attractive enough?
I don't know. I can't seem to ever find it.
You can't find it? You just okay.
No.
Well, I'm better looking than you anyway, so that's probably just as well for all the viewers. Okay, fantastic.
Before we get too deep into the Reynolds genetics.
Personal issues coming out now.
Gone totally west.
I just have to keep asserting my aesthetic superiority over my son. It's just something that needs to be done in public as often as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
As well as in
well, unfortunately, Hyrox wasn't around when you were younger to lay down records that he'd need to beat. I'm sure they'd be, very challenging.
Exactly.
I don't know that, Kev. You don't know his age. That's a bit of
a bold statement.
Oh, that's a bold statement there.
Well, no, on the basis that your son is, a grown man. We go back in time.
I'm actually,
it predates Hyrox.
No,
I'm 13 next week.
Still my little boy.
Yeah.
He's still my little boy, grown man indeed. And on that bombshell, welcome to the podcast, Kevin and Paul from By Athena. Great to have you on.
Thank you.
Jude's been to one of your races already. Could you just kick us off by introducing us to who you are individually, and then how By Athena came to be?
My name is Paul. So, I'm one of the founders. Kevin was and still is a client when he turns up at my gym, course studio up in Blackheath.
So rude.
And I completely coerced him and blackmailed him into doing a Hyrox. Didn't tell him I got him a ticket without asking. So we went off. He was only a client for about 3 hours, I think. Maybe he had I think he only had literally 2 sessions, and I thought this geezer needs a Hyrox. So
is that a compliment or an insult?
Well, a bit of both. So I knew Cardiff was the week after, so I got us a ticket to Cardiff. Off we went. Had a great weekend, and then on the way back, we got onto the discussion of the lack of tickets because we both decided we were at the age of relics and potentially we could win a flag together. And we looked at we were sitting there on the train looking at the timetable, and it's just impossible to get a ticket. And Kev looked at me and said, "What do you think? Do you think you could put one of these shows on with your community? You've got a core and with the people you know." And I said, "Hell yeah." And then we started scrambling for our phone books, ringing people, ringing randoms, trying to get hold of skis, trying to get hold of Rose. And the train back from Cardiff was mental. 2 flat whites and trying to buy ski ergs. That was literally how it was born.
Wow.
And we kind of went from there.
On the way back from a Hyrox, realising that there's just no way most of the time to get into a Hyrox. So this is crazy. We love the format.
And
right.
And there was and for me as well, I think that was my 6th or 7th race, and a little bit controversial. I didn't really like the direction it was going in. It was becoming a little bit elitist, So hard to get tickets. The tickets were quite expensive, and I really did have a vision of trying to put it on in a kind of an area that was people wouldn't never see someone running down the street with a sled or a ski or a row. Our first event at the Meridian Football Club was put on in the back of a council estate on a 4G football pitch. We had 60 athletes running around. It was absolutely mind blowing that we pulled that off. But we did. So yeah, that was how it was kind of, and then Peckham was born on the back of that. And it developed. I think Kev will agree. We started off. We actually did a full hybrid sim that day, and we offered the half. And what we both, do you know what? If I'm really honest, and I like to be as honest as I can with things, we don't really know how it was born into the format of the half, but it was over conversations, and it seemed to be everybody that day just wanted to do the half.
Half being half Hyrox.
Yeah, half being the half Hyrox, and it was. Do you know what? And some people there that day, watching their faces when they completed it, it kind of lit me up, and that is kind of that. And we just looked at each other and went, "We've delivered this. We've pulled this off." And it was more like being at a wedding. It was amazing. We had a one-man band there playing his, I don't know what he was, but
it was a one-man steel band, Paul. It was incredible.
One-man steel band. We had a DJ that was half cut. We had we give everyone a lucky bag at the end. I had my Sunday football team there lugging gear around. It was but it worked. Do you know what? It worked, and we built a community on the back of that. And what a beautiful day! It was a beautiful day. Obviously, with James is not here, and he did a hell of a lot of logistics work to pull that show off. And then, like what Jude was saying to me at the start, the overwhelming thing for me was standing in the middle of Peckham, looking at the size of the start sign. When I looked at the Meridian, we had it was literally an A4 bit of cardboard with "start" written on it, and me and Kevin were standing under this arch, and I was just like, we've pulled this off. So yeah, from my background, I mean, I'm 17 years sober, struggled with addiction and drug and drink all my life, and it was just overwhelming that we'd achieved it on the back of what we'd done. So yeah, it's massive to me. Yeah, massive.
I assume that background struggle that you've had, Paul, led to you starting the gym in the first place, did it?
Yeah, this was my saviour. Yeah, and I think on the day I had 30 volunteers, probably more, people that just wanted to help. All the judges were members, clients, friends, family. It was crazy. Yeah, It was everybody, you know, and I will say as well, I don't want to bang on forever, but we actually did have a vision of actually trying to do a free event. That was the idea. I think I want to do this free. So, you know, we had Movember. I got Movember involved. Movember mental health charity. It was mind blowing. You had to be there to kind of see what we created was something really special.
So, Kevin, you'd known Paul for about 5 minutes and were paying him money, and then he responded by saying, "Not only are you going to pay me money to be my client, you're now going to help me run this thing."
That's right. Yeah. So, I mean, let me
tell
you the same story from my angle, because my background is not one of fitness. I'm a banker. I've been working across various banks in the city for the last 25 years. But I am partial to a lot of cycling. I'm a keen cyclist, and I've raced bikes maybe for the last 5-6 years in the veterans categories across London and the southeast. And I was really looking to get a bit more strength training in and trying to be injury free as I get older on the bike, essentially. And it's that really that led me to hybrid fitness in the first place. I've been to the gym a few times in my early years, but never really got on with it particularly well because it kind of lacked that competitive element. And finding Hyrox meant that I could be competitive and get the strength training in and find a community and a network of people with similar interests and goals. So it all started for me when I signed up to a Hyrox in Barcelona. I went out with a friend of mine and we did that and very much enjoyed it. I didn't do very well because I was built like a cyclist, so the runs were okay, but cyclists on sled pushes don't
Sled's not great.
Don't push it very fast. So, you know, I had a lot of work to do, and that felt good because I'd suddenly got something that was very different and a new set of goals that often gives you a refresh in life. You know, I've spent 10 years or so thrashing myself on the bike and not necessarily getting very far, but having something that I could see real gains because my body was changing and I was feeling stronger and, you know, changing the shape. Felt quite good. It was then that actually the friend that I did the Hyrox in Barcelona actually had a mutual school friend, or a friend who was a school friend of Paul's, and put me in touch, and his gym's just down the road. So Paul's right. We met up for, I think, 2 or 3 client PT sessions. He obviously realised he'd got a lot of work in progress to do on me. But also felt that I was up for stuff. So I was sitting in a meeting one day and my wife texted me and said, are you off to Cardiff this weekend? Because I've just seen something on Instagram. And I'm like, what? So I don't know how Paul got away with it, but somehow he managed to post on Instagram that me and him were off to do the Hyrox in Cardiff. And through the grapevines back to my wife, who texted me going, what the hell's going on? So, in a way, that was the only way that was going to happen, because if I'd have asked permission, it might have been a no. So yeah, off we went. We spent a nice weekend in Cardiff. It was then, you know, I realised Paul's connections and his communities so powerful. So that, you know, went with a few people that he had connections. We had a really nice meal the night before with one of the elite athletes who actually ended up winning the women's events. She's past European Hyrox world record holder. So incredible connections. You know, he talks very modestly about the people he knows across his community. But, you know, it dawned on me on the way back from on the train that if anyone could put on a hybrid fitness event that wasn't one of the main ones that was available, you know, it might be Paul. And he's put on a few smaller events in the past, you know, Sutcliffe Track, running track. He's got people down, his communities come out and supported him. You know, I fancied doing something outside of banking. I'm not getting any younger, and you know, doing something a little bit vocational and for the community was something that really appealed to me. So yeah, that's where the conversation started. The phone call came back the next day, said, "Hey, you know, from Paul, actually, I think we can do this." And we chatted about it, and it wasn't until we met James, who's the other founder, who unfortunately can't be with us tonight because he's gone up to Manchester on an overnight job, unfortunately. But James is a really important third leg because he, in his full-time role, runs a business around fabrication. He's got a warehouse, he's got vans, and he can build stuff that looks cool. He's got a number of fashion houses as his client base. You know, and he can actually put on an event. So myself and Paul are very much the dreamers here. James is the guy who actually gets it done. And I think, you know, you saw a little bit of that in Peckham. There's perhaps more of that to come as we put on events that, you know, are for everybody, but kind of try and have a little bit of class and look as if they're professionally put on and that we know what we're doing.
So did you let James know that he was going to be running an event, Paul, or did he find out through Instagram as well?
I used to live with James, and I found myself through my my love of drink and drugs. I found myself homeless quite a few years ago, and I live with James and his mum. So I've known James all my life, and he was a client as well. And I told him what I was doing, and he said, I'd love to help. And that was how that conversation started. And then the 3 of us was born. It was crazy, really. I mean, it literally 3 conversations and bang, we were away.
So I guess the fact that you're on your way back from Hyrox, does that go some way or the whole way to explaining why your race format is essentially half of a Hyrox distance-wise? I mean, did you look at the possibility? Because lots of other people have gone, well, we like Hyrox, and some people have said, we like Hyrox, but we want something different, so we need more strength. Is what a number of them do. Or we like these stations that are different, and why aren't you doing that? Some people seem to almost copy. It's like Hybrid Games, for example, is almost identical to Hyrox, but not quite. What was the thinking of going exactly half?
Well, maybe I can just jump in. I know Paul started by talking about the event that we had in I think July. Bear in mind we only did the Cardiff Hyrox I think in late April, early May, and I think it started when we did the first event, the pilot on the Meridian in Charlton. We got a nice mix of elites and people who were perhaps, I'd say, Hyrox curious, if that's a word. People who see it on Instagram, they love the whole idea of doing it, but then someone goes, well, okay, you're probably going to do work for at least an hour and a half to 2 hours, and at the end of it, you'll need to do 100 wall balls, and they just go, that's not for me. So what we found because we put the event on in such a short period of time, we gave nobody the chance to do any training or work up to the event. So as we got closer to the date, we got a number of people going, I've signed up for the full Hyrox, but I'll just do the half. So the half became far more popular than the full. I think, we got 2/3 of our entrants signed up for the half.
Yeah.
And we'd even got, and that was a mixture of seasoned Hyrox athletes combined with first timers. And we found that, we were doing mixed waves and there was an atmosphere there that was really inclusive. And as we set the wave off, people who, were maybe partway through a training block, maybe working up to a bigger event later on, or people that, had really got this in the calendar as their one big thing. Both of those groups felt as if, the half Hyrox really delivered for them as a format. Either they could go out and really test themselves, or they could experience what it is to, survive the 8 workstations. So we actually called it Survive the 8 initially, which, was something that I think resonated with some people. I think as we've developed, we realised that actually it takes a bit of explaining. Actually, the urban race is a much better way of describing that. And I think us as a founding set of, as a trio, we'd like to put on potentially other formats in the future. So, the By Athena brand really encapsulates that desire to have, the community and the vibe and the spirit and the charity element all wrapped into that. And obviously the urban race is our first sort of format event.
And I think also adding to that, going into areas where maybe other people wouldn't venture, like Peckham is, anybody knows the history of London, putting a race on in Peckham is quite a feat. And that was really attractive to us as well. Obviously with the name in the urban race, it was very, it says it all. It couldn't have been a better venue, could it, Kev? And the accessibility of a half as well. Why not? And it just, I just wanted to show people, look, you can do this. You haven't got to be a runner 5K under 20 minutes and push a 200 kilo sled under 4 minutes. You can do this. But if you want to come and be an athlete, then we're open for you as well.
Yeah, I think the half was super versatile, just because as you said, Kevin, before, in that elite athletes don't have to build, taper, and base anything around it because of the volume being reduced. The weight's also reduced, so it won't leave you incredibly fatigued. And it's also a great way to test your running legs and your high-end speed, because you'll be able to unlock a few seconds per kilometer quicker than a full, and you'll be able to practice doing the stations a lot quicker due to the reduced weight if you're used to pro. And then, as you said, it's super accessible. It's half the volume and open weight. So people who haven't done one and people who are wanting to sort of sharpen their speed a little bit, it works both ways for that.
So just really to clarify that point then, because I'd mentioned at the top that everything's half Hyrox distance, but the weights are the same. So clarifying that point, the weights that you use are the same as men's open. And do the women have women's Hyrox women's open weights as well? So they're different. Okay. Yeah. So there's no heavier weight option. Everyone uses the same weights for their sex, and it equates to the Hyrox open weights. Okay.
Yeah, and we're doing a pro version as well, Battersea.
Oh, okay. And how's that going to be different?
Exactly the same. Half the pro. So
half, but the bigger weights.
Pro weights, yeah.
Okay.
All right. We're giving away a prize as well.
Okay, Jude, get your pen out. What's the prize?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, is it worth talking about the elite race a little bit? I think the spirit of this is that obviously we've got connections into a number of elite athletes, Jude being one of them now. And I think there's a huge amount of hybrid fitness talent in the UK that actually
not being looked
doesn't
after.
get the recognition it really deserves, given the size and excitement around the sport as we have it right now.
And I think it's like for a YouTube thing as well. It's watchable. The half is more watchable.
Yeah,
I think. I mean, I love Hyrox, but unless you really love it, you get bored. Where if you don't really like Hyrox, you could watch the half because it's exciting.
Yeah, so
it's over in 30 odd minutes,
and everyone's going quicker, which is always better viewing anyway.
It's like T20 cricket. You don't mind watching a full day's cricket, but you'll sit and watch that.
Well, that's where we part company, Paul. I think T20 is an abomination. And I'm only interested in Test cricket. Even a full day, it's like that's too short. That's too short.
No.
5 days or nothing, man. You've ruined the argument. I was with you right up until you said that.
I think a day of cricket is still too long, but
uncivilized individuals.
Uneducated here, but there you go.
I just want to finish the point on the format, because there's been a couple of questions asked about, is the Hyrox format sacrosanct legally? Can you copy it and still feel comfortable that you're not just ripping off Hyrox with their format? I'd say a couple of things about that, and I may be corrected by somebody from Hyrox who will call me after this, but our view is, first of all, obviously Hyrox is a very strong brand, and we're very careful not to encroach on that. I'd like to see the Hyrox format be a format that is open and can be applied for as an Olympic format. I know that they've got ambitions to get there. And one of the prerequisites of being an Olympic sport is having a competition that is an open format, like golf or tennis. Or these are sports that have been designed and developed with a set of rules which people are allowed to copy. You're allowed to have a Wimbledon tennis championship, and you're allowed to have a Roland Garros in France. The rules are the same. The format is the same. Roland Garros and Wimbledon can happily coexist. And we'd like to have the same relationship with Hyrox. Equally, I think
exactly. I mean, there's no such thing as an Olympic sport that is a brand name. So if it ever gets into the Olympics, it won't be called Hyrox because that's a brand, that's a company.
So it'll have to be
called a hybrid fitness race or something.
Hybrid fitness race or something.
But
it will have to conform to a set of standards. And Hyrox is the leading brand right now. It sets a set of standards which I think are extremely cleverly thought out. There are a set of standards that allow you to compete relatively risk-free from an injury perspective, but they're still very challenging, and they build as you go through the competition. I don't think we're trying to take Hyrox market share. In fact, the opposite. I think we're providing a platform for people who are Hyrox curious to get into hybrid fitness racing and allow them to do one of our races before they take on maybe a Hyrox that they may never have done if they hadn't have done one of ours. And I don't see Hyrox stepping down to join us in the half format because they'd like to continue to be seen as that aspirational brand that takes, commitment and training and dedication to get to the start line that perhaps is slightly over and above what our format requires.
And I think if you were to look at your race from an elite point of view, because obviously you have people of all abilities doing these types of hybrid races, which is awesome. If you were to look at you versus Hyrox in an elite standpoint, the energy systems that you're using for both of your races are very different. And I think if both of your races started 10 years ago and you built for both the races, the world champion of a Hyrox, if it was as competitive as the urban race, would not be the same person. I think the energy systems that you use going half the volume compared to double the volume is very different. And you have a different type of athlete. Their musculature and their muscle fibers are different.
What kind of different person would excel at the urban race versus Hyrox?
So I think the less stations and less running, I think you've got to be quicker. So running will be even more, everything will be more important with half the distance. And so with half the volume, you're going to have to be, you can get away with being a slightly heavier athlete because the heavier you are, the more of a toll it takes on your body when you ask it to move for 60 minutes versus 30 minutes, for example. And so I think you can get away with being a slightly heavier athlete and making more of your mark on the stations with half the race, which is obviously the urban event. versus a Hyrox, where you're going to kind of have to ditch some weight if you're built like me in order to compete with those people that are running 320 per kilometer for 8.7 kilometers. Whereas I can get away with running less and make up more on the stations with half the volume.
And I think your lactate threshold is potentially slower with us, where you can hit burnout. If you hit a Hyrox wrong, you can hit a burnout quite quickly.
The strategy is going to be quite different.
Yeah.
So you can, like in a Hyrox, exactly what Paul was saying, if you start hot, you're going to say you die off by the farmer's carry. If you start hot on the urban race and you sort of manage it and you redline it, you could redline into 27 minutes, a lot more likely than you are to redline into 62, 63 minutes.
Yeah.
Or to 92 minutes, hypothetically.
Yeah.
For the rest of us. Yeah. I'm not redlining for 92 minutes. I wouldn't be here.
You go from red line to black line.
Like I was redlining for 92 minutes.
Yeah.
We're just saying how it's transitioning from the Peckham format to the Battersea format. And one of the elements was you're introducing an elite format, which is with the equivalent of Hyrox Pro weights.
And also the track as well. We had a vision at the start, didn't we, of being able to. I really, really had a clear goal of one day putting this on in a track. I think Hyrox have kind of missed the trick with that. I think the racetrack is absolutely, what a spectacle to have a racetrack where you have the stations in the middle. And what a vision that is to be able to carry that out as well. I think it'll be something else. I really do. I'll let Kevin bit the more technical work than me trying to take Hyrox on.
Not taking Hyrox on. It's a parallel format. Yeah, it's a parallel.
Yeah, we love them.
But I think, I think we're trying to evolve and grow and get bigger and attract more people every time we go out with an event. I think Peckham was great because it really captured the vibe that we discovered in our very first event. It took it to Peckham. The DJs were high energy throughout the day. People stayed and hung around and supported each other. I still see people posting pictures of themselves from the day, even now. That people look back.
Great idea as well.
Yeah, right. People look back and with great fondness in terms of what we pulled off that day. I think that what we're trying to do now is continue to have that vibe and that atmosphere. As Paul says, take it outside to a running track. I think we're also very critical of ourselves, and myself and Jude actually sat down after the event and talked a little bit about what can we do better. How do we take what we're doing to the next level? Constantly finding ways of improving. And I think one of the tricky things about Peckham was it was in a very urban environment, crammed into a warehouse, and the run itself was extremely challenging. And watching Jude fly around at the pace that he runs, trying to manage the corners, was quite entertaining. It was like watching a cat run around a kitchen island. Probably the best way of describing that.
It was really, really just a very different experience. It was awesome. I think it was urban, but it was the 100. It wasn't it 500 meter runs, and each lap was 100 meters. Right. So it was
5 laps of tearing it round 90-degree bends, essentially, trying not to.
We can't get you out of your breath. We'll get you dizzy. One of the two.
So it was great, but we just didn't feel like we could put the event on there again. We wanted to get better. The track at Battersea is iconic. It's right in the middle of London. I think we're hoping for a nice summer's day, but if we don't get it, we've got things that we can cover the stations with in the middle of the track, and we can provide that intensity on the track for everybody. When we get to the elite event in the evening, we'd like people to hang around and watch, because it will be some watch when we let these guys go, guys and girls.
Yeah,
we've got some incredible talent across the UK. We'd like to, hopefully, some people watching who are like, I'd like to have a piece of that. There's a little bit of prize money, and the prize money is the ticket money on the elite race itself. So it's a bit like a prize pot, winner takes all, if you like. And we just want to put it on as a spectacle. We want to use what we're building here to showcase British talent. We've got some of the strongest athletes in the world right now because of the excitement over hybrid fitness racing in the UK.
Yes.
And, unfortunately, they only get to race in the UK a few times a year. It's the names and the individuals don't necessarily get the recognition that they need. So we'd like to put the individuals in lights. We'd like people to recognize who they are, and we'd like to get people to hang around and to support and to enjoy the spectacle, because I think it will be quite exciting.
Yes.
I think definitely, like you touched on it, with Battersea being, if you are up to date at all with the running community, or especially park runs, it is probably the name across the UK in terms of park runs. It has completely flat. I think it's exactly 2.5k loops?
Yeah, I think so.
Around the whole of Battersea. And so it's like combining super flat, exact distancing, very iconic. Everyone who keeps up to date with park runs or even running in general will know about Battersea. I've even wanted to travel an hour and a half just to do a park run on Battersea. So I think getting not only just a track format, but Battersea of all places, I think is going to be super cool.
Yeah.
Really encouraging people, buy your tickets. They're on sale now. Our growth is matched by the excitement in the hybrid fitness arena anyway. So that we're pretty confident that we can get the right numbers of people to the event that will be able to be a fun, vibrant day and challenge yourself. Or if you decide to go for the elite race, challenge others. So that's the kind of the message to everybody, I think.
And what's the date of the event?
It's on the weekend.
27th, 28th of June.
27th and the 28th of June. And what's the web address people should go to?
So we're on Let's Do This. So you can either Google Let's Do This Urban Race and you'll find us. Or you can go to www.by-athena.com and you'll see a link there to the Let's Do This site, so you can buy tickets through them.
And do you have a particular vision or a general vision for where you'd like to be going in the next year or two?
Yeah, look, I think as we expand, we are obviously, hopefully, going to attract more numbers to the format, get people excited and involved. We're starting London-based because that's where we live. And, we know, as Jude said, there's some iconic places that we'd like to bring the event to. I think starting in Peckham was important because it established our roots and, generated our soul, if you like, as a brand and as an organisation. And we'd like to make sure that we protect that as we get into sort of more venues. We are looking at venues, across sort of the wider London space as we get into autumn and winter 26. Obviously, staying dry is important as we get into the winter months. We're also looking into other formats. So while we're very focused on the half Hyrox format, and we are wedded to that and will continue to put that on regularly. So we're thinking 3 or 4 events at least in the half Hyrox format. We're also talking to the British Army, who actually came down to our first event, and talks are ongoing, but obviously, given who we're talking to, I can't really say too much at the moment. But there's a possibility that we might have some links with the British Army and think about an army-focused format.
Wow. Which takes me back to the conversation we had with Jason Curtis from Deadly Dozen, who's ex-army, and he was talking about trying to use the Deadly fitness test or other kind of, Deadly Dozen have got a variety of different formats within under their own umbrella, and trying to use them as kind of sort of slightly definitive fitness test. And there's interesting conversations to be had around how much strength you need to include in a fitness test, because and I chatting with Jude about it. Jude was like, well, if all your rep counts are 60 plus, then that's a very low strength threshold. And then that's kind of imposing a particular definition of fitness, right? Because you talk to a CrossFitter about what fitness is, and well, unless you're doing muscle ups, which requires giant shoulders, then you're not fit. Period. you're barely a man if you're not doing muscle ups. I'm like, well, that's harsh. And then you've got formats at the other end which are very running heavy with a couple of apology stations mixed in, and then you've got folks. I think in some ways between Affix and Hyrox would be the kind of spectrum of a bit more fitnessy and less specialist. So are you looking to explore kind of more strength orientated, similar hybrid races, or something very much different?
We're just exploring possibilities at this stage. Very early day. We will have to come back for another conversation on that.
Definitely. So for the moment, it's expanding outside London, and then from there, use that as a springboard, perhaps next year to across the country.
I think that's right. I think if we're looking, some of the indoor venues towards the autumn, winter time are kind of within the sort of London M25 type zone. With then a view, if I talk to friends I've got, up north, I'm from Grimsby originally, and I've got friends in Manchester and Bradford and places like that. There's opportunity outside of London.
Yeah, it's untapped.
And just,
I think where you're down there as well, Jude, in Guildford, that area down there, I mean, it's craving out for an event.
There's nothing. The first thing I've ever come across is Hybrid Games Farnborough. That is the first thing I've ever seen.
Guildford,
so I think the south
Oxford,
is prime.
Oxford, Guildford, Cambridge. I mean, this thing, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why everything hates the south, but we need something.
Yeah, and university towns, I don't know why no one's hit them with Hyrox or hybrid fitness racing. University towns screaming out for it.
Well, it would. Honestly, I think it needs someone like you to be doing it, because there's no point putting on a 200 quid event in a university town. You need you guys doing something that's manageable.
And if you could see somebody, I know we haven't touched on it, I know we haven't got all night, but the vision was trying to make an accessible race. But when you're getting absolutely strangulated by some of the fees that places want for hire, and you want to deliver, I mean, when we're working with Movember and we're trying to bring a charity element into it, and you're trying to make something accessible, and then you get quoted, you'd have to sell 1,000 tickets to break even. And you're trying to make an accessible race, but then you look at university towns, and obviously the rent will be on the venue will be a little bit cheaper, and your price point could be the same. So you'll be able to have your charity element and make it a viable business, which is what we ultimately want to do. Raise awareness for local charities and the charities that we're going to be working with, but obviously help people want to do a bloody race. They ain't going to have to absolutely be fleeced.
I just think if Spoons can come to the Uni of Surrey, I think a hybrid race can.
Yeah, so, Dude. I don't. Yeah, exactly. Eating dog food. What is it? A dog food burger and a pint for a £5. I mean,
I'd be surprised if it's that much. So,
anything Spoons can do, By Athena can do better.
Maybe do one in a Spoons.
Yeah, you thought Peckham was a struggle to get your 500 metres in, Jude. You ain't seen nothing, mate.
Yeah, let's have it. You could definitely do the one in Ramsgate. They've got the biggest one in Europe.
There we go.
And that's alcoholic. I know the Witherspoons, don't worry.
That's the vision. By Athena Witherspoons collab.
Yeah.
That's something no one saw coming.
That's
certainly not on the. That's one for the strategy conversation for next week, maybe.
Yeah, don't call us, we'll call you. You're welcome. All right.
Yeah.
So, anything else you guys want to share about plans or hopes or anything unique to you guys that you'd like people to be aware of?
I think our backstory is quite unique. We've got a soul and half. How it was all born is quite, we have got, I believe, what the others haven't got, and that is the backstory of how this was all put together. How I met James and how we come together and the community that helped build this. It is quite some, and some of the stories I've got for people that have bought tickets from my gym is they've all got a story. They've all got a story, and it'll be quite some day to watch people that have gone from absolutely zero to do a competitive race. Will be quite something.
Definitely one of the most spontaneous hybrid fitness event births that I've heard of. Definitely.
That explains my brain, Jude. And put me and Kevin together in a room and it's deadly. It's dangerous. James times us down. But I do think it's the backstory, Kev. We've agreed that, haven't we? It's quite unique. what
I
we've
think
got.
I think that definitely, and the community that you've got, Paul, and being able to, put an event for that community, I think it's been quite special. And then to try and then go from what was very much a community event in the sunshine in Charlton that sort of sunny July afternoon, to actually trying to make a business out of it, and trying to retain that vibe and that community spirit at the same time. Is quite special. It's been good fun.
I mean, on the back of that first event as well, I found myself running with MPs at Westminster off the back of doing that Charlton event. I was just like, it's such a surreal moment. It was crazy. There's been some crazy offshoots of this. It's been unreal, really. What a journey it's been so far. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Do you want to say anything more about that? Just saying, you just to be clear, you're running with, not from, and not at.
No, it was part of the Movember ambassador thing. We was doing.
Right.
We got offered an opportunity to go and run with some. What do you call them? People that don't listen.
MPs,
what are they called? MPs. We did a 5K, and I got to talk about the race and how it was born and stuff. So yeah, there's been some real good stuff come out of this.
That's great. Well, I think another unique part of it is that you're quite explicitly talking about trying to build the charity element as an ongoing thing.
That means a lot to us.
You want to make money, and you need to make money, but also to try and make just enough of a margin that you can actually be helping out the local community where you're putting on the event, which hopefully will add to people's desire to be hosting the urban race as well, particularly when you look at expanding into the rest of the UK.
Yeah. And also, I think if I think about the community and why they're so passionate about training and hybrid fitness racing, I think having an event in the diary, having a goal and working towards it has a strong, people talk a lot about mental health, and it means different things to different people. But I think to this community, having a goal in the diary, committing to a training regime and how it works for those as individuals definitely helps people's mental health. And there's a spec
absolutely critical.
But I think I think everyone benefits from getting up in the morning and knowing that in 3 weeks' time they're putting their body on the line and they want to do their best, and that then dictates a little bit around what they do that day. And if it means you go for a run in the park in the fresh air, that makes you feel pretty good.
It's just change, isn't it? It just brings change and commitment.
I think there are people like my son and my father who don't need that. They're oddly disciplined about doing things that are healthy. But I think more people are like me. And for me, it's exactly what you just described, Kevin. Like if I've got a race, I can be very, very focused. And so for my fitness journey or my fitness zigzag, I need, I remember when I was doing marathon running 10, 15 years ago, before I'd done a marathon, I had to have the next one booked. Otherwise I'd just sit down for the next 6 months. So that's a big deal.
It's
sorry, Jude, go on.
No, that's all right. I was just, even for me, when it's not essential to be exercising, a goal is essential to train to the standard at which I do. I'd always exercise or keep healthy if I didn't have a goal. But even for those people that don't necessarily need one, they need it to train at the standard at which they do. So for everyone, I don't see it as anything but really important.
And I remember, I remember when I first moved to London. I was busy. I was a young accountant, working all hours and maybe drinking too much in the evenings. I got myself a gym membership. I wanted to keep fit, but I'd be in the gym questioning why I was there and not really having the motivation to go again. And I think, I am competitive. I enjoy competing with others and with myself. And the moment hybrid fitness racing came along and actually said, well, actually, if you go to the gym regularly, you're going to do better for yourself. I've suddenly got a purpose that I'd never had previously. And it's made a huge difference. And, now, I'm still a keen cyclist, but I can now cycle relatively injury free, given some of the work that I've done in the gym that maybe I wouldn't have done previously.
Thanks for what you guys are doing. I really appreciate your time joining us today. And I don't know whether we'll be able to get to Badsea, but if not Badsea, then certainly one of your next ones in the autumn. So that's been
Cool.
great. Really appreciate it. Thanks very
Great.
much.
Thank you, guys, and look
Thank you,
forward,
guys.
if we
Thank
can
you.
get you to the
Cheers.
elite race,
Cheers.
Jude, let's make it happen.
If I'm
Paul,
in the
if you-
country, I'm there.